everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. Welcome back to week 3 of our 2023 Flux Summer Crochet Along. We are hard at work on this gorgeous throw, the Summer of Love throw. This is a total summertime project stitched up in cool cotton yarn in the brightest, most fun, happy colors ever. It's just been such a joy to crochet this project. This is a granny hexagon throw. Last week we learned how to make a granny hexagon every stitch of the way, and we learned how to join them together using the join as you go technique. So if you missed that, the links are below. Also for week 1 we talked about the project itself, the sizing, the supplies. So anything you've missed, you can check out the links below for that. This week we are going to learn how to, as you're making your project, let me just turn this a little bit so you can see it. As you're making your project, you'll notice that your granny hexagons, when you start connecting them, they leave kind of a half hexagon opening along the sides of your blanket. So today we're going to learn how to crochet a half granny hexagon and also use the join as you go technique to connect them onto our blanket. So the result as you make your hexagons will be your blanket will have a straight side and have those openings filled up. Now, that being said, when you are doing your hexagon as well, your top row here, we will have some lovely points that later next week we are going to accent with some tassels, okay? And that'll be a nice fun effect for our blanket. Now let's just recap our schedule. I mentioned a little bit about the schedule before of our crochet along. So for week 1, 2 weeks ago, we did the introduction to the project. We learned about the supplies, the sizing, how many hexagons I was doing across and the top and then down, and then how you can customize it for yourself and make your own size blanket. For week 2, I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. We made a full-size granny hexagon and learned how to use the join as you go technique to join it together. Today, we will be learning how to make the half granny hexagon and using the join as you go technique to attach those as well. Looking ahead, next week, we are going to kind of wrap up our project and take care of some of these ends that we have, okay? We're gonna weave in the ends. There's different types of ends you may encounter. We're gonna tackle all of those. And also accent these lovely points at the top and bottom of our blanket with these very easy to make tassels. If you're not familiar with tassels, I do mine with no fancy tools, just my hand and a pair of scissors. And I'm gonna show you how I do that. And we're gonna use some contrasting, just the yarn, really the yarn scraps of this blanket to create some tassels just all across the top and bottom of the blanket, and that'll make it really fun. For week 5, what I always like to do for these crochet alongs is to do a recap post. So what we'll do is take all the parts of all these tutorials from the past few weeks and we're going to put it in a recap post so you can go back and revisit the project at any time. I know a lot of you like to do that for these crochet alongs. So what we'll do is do a recap post so you'll see week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, all in one handy place, okay? So without further ado, let's jump in and learn how to make this half granny hexagon and attach them to your blanket. Okay, so for today's tutorial, we have our blanket because we're going to be putting some half granny hexagons onto our blanket today. We have our same 6mm J crochet hook that we used before for the rest of our blanket. I have a pair of scissors, and then I grabbed one of the colors that we'll be using today. So let me just scoot this over. As you can see, I'm still hard at work on this, adding my hexagons. And if we slide it over to the side, you'll see that now these points here are eventually going to have some tassels later on when we do our finish work in the future. But for today, you can see they have some nice points, and that kind of gives us like a nice little top, and it's how the bottom will look. But if you look at the sides of your blanket, you'll see that there's sort of like some larger notches that will be taken out by the way our hexagons are positioned. And let me just give you an example. I have a half granny hexagon here just to show you. But then if we slide down, this is the part of the blanket that we'll be working on today. I've done 3 hexagons here, and you can see it's almost like a big bite taken out of it. So we are going to make, you can see the outline of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting a bright green one right here on the side, and we're going to do that together today. So let's slide this back up so you can see what it looks like when it's done. It gives you that side of the blanket edge that we're after, okay? So I'm going to scoot our blanket just out of the way a little bit while we work on our hexagon, and it's going to be the same concept. Remember, with each of our full-size hexagons, we did the first full rounds independently, and then when we worked the 5th round of our hexagon is when we started joining it to the blanket. We're going to do the same thing for our half hexagon. We're going to work the first 4 rows independently. So you notice I said rounds for this one. For our half hexagon, we need to flip it and work in rows this time and not rounds. But we're going to work the first 4 rows independently. And then when we go to do the 5th row, that's when we'll be incorporating it into our blanket. So we can just kind of scoot this out of the way till we get to round 5. And I'm going to zoom way in with my yarn here because we're going to grab our hook and our yarn and we're going to do the first 4 rows together, okay? So we'll do those 4 together and then we'll grab our blanket as we move on. So to begin our half granny hexagon, what we need to do is put a slip knot on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop and tighten. Next, what we're going to do is chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to join in the farthest chain from the hook to create a ring. Now I did mention we're working in rows and turning and flipping our work, but we are going to start our half granny hexagon with a ring, okay? So it's kind of a little different, but we are going to also start it with a ring, even though we will be working it in rows, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So go into the first chain you made, that farthest chain from the hook, insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook, and you can kind of open up this ring that we made, just so you can work some stitches into it. And we will hold this tail along the edge as we work. Same thing we did with the hexagon, the full-size hexagon. Okay, so first we're going to work a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to count as a double crochet chain 1, okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to work a double crochet chain 1 5 times into the center of the ring, okay? So just to refresh, to work a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert it into the center of the ring, and bring up a loop. 3 loops are on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops, and chain 1. We're going to do that a total of 5 times. So that was 1. Then we're going to go for the second double crochet, chain 1. The third, we'll just get a little more yarn here. The third double crochet, chain 1. Still holding that tail along the edge. The 4th double crochet, chain 1. And the 5th double crochet, chain 1. You can go back and double count yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then what we're going to do is chain 1 once again, and then work a double crochet 1 more time into the center of the ring, okay? So we sort of have a little kind of fan shape right now. This is going to eventually become a half hexagon shape. Okay, so let's move on to row 2. For row 2, what we're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn our work. When we turn our work, just make sure that fan is the right shape is facing you. And you can use this little tail as sort of like a helper. Just make sure that's facing you and everything will be in the right position. Okay, so we did a chain 3 and then turn. And then what we're going to do is in this first chain 1 space that we did, we're going to work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, and then a chain 1. And then in every one of the chain 1 spaces across here, we're going to do the same thing. So go into the next space and work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 1. Next space, 2 double crochet, 1, 2, and chain 1. Next space, remember those chain 1 spaces, 2 double crochet, 1, 2, and chain 1. Next, chain 1 space. 2 double crochet, 1, 2, and chain 1. Okay, now in our turning chain space here, remember we did that turning chain in that space that it created. What we're going to do is work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, then a chain 1, and then a double crochet, all in that same turning chain space. Okay, so our little half circle is growing. It's going to be a half circle for a little bit, and then it'll turn into the hexagon. Okay, just same thing as when we did the hexagons up here. It started out as a circle. Okay, let's move on to row 3. For row 3, what we'll do this time is chain 4. Now, when you're doing these half granny hexagons, if you notice, the last row we chained 3 at the beginning, the row before that we chained 4. So just pay extra special attention to what number chain, because it does change when we start each row. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turn our work. Remember, use that little tail as a helper. If it's facing you, everything's in the right spot. And now in this first chain 1 space, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then a chain 1 in that first chain 1 space. And then in each chain 1 space across, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so in the next chain 1 space here, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1. Next chain 1 space, do the same thing. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet. Next chain 1 space, remember to do your chain 1 after that. Next chain 1 space, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and chain 1. Next chain 1 space that you come to, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1. Okay. Next chain 1 space, and it's the last one of the row here. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets and chain 1. Okay, and now in this turning chain space at the end here, and now in the turning chain space, work a double crochet. Okay, so row 3 is complete. It's starting to shape up and grow. Okay, now for row 4. Row 4, we're still working this independently. We're not doing any joins yet. Okay, so for row 4, this is when we're going to turn our little half circle into our half hexagon shape. So what we want to do for row 4 is once again chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this is going to count as a double crochet chain 1. Now we're going to turn our work. And again, you can use that little tail as a helper. If it's pointing towards you, everything is in the right spot. And now in the first space here that you come to, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1. Okay, next space, once again, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and chain 1. And then the next space, we're going to work our first corner of our hexagon. So if we slide this one down, we're at this corner, this first corner here, okay? So in our next space, what we'll do is work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, but in the same space we'll work 3 more double crochet. You can scoot things over if you need to. So in that same space, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next space now. So do a chain 1, and we'll go to the next space, and that's kind of the in-between one. So we'll do 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and now we'll do another corner. So in that next space, once again, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and in the same space, 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Okay, so chain 1, and now we'll kind of go back down the side here. So we're going to do in the next space 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then in the turning chain space, we're going to do 3 double crochet again, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then 1 more double crochet in that same space. Okay? So now, and I like to kind of straighten all this stuff out. Now we have the beginnings of our half double crochet, or our half granny hexagon, excuse me. And it's starting to really shape up, okay? So at this point, let's scoot this over just a little bit. We can put our hook back in here, because let's pull our blanket back over here, because we are going to start joining this half granny hexagon and get it onto our blanket to make a nice flat side of the sides of our blanket. So I'm going to get those tails out of the way. These tails we're going to save for another part of our tutorial. We're not even going to worry about those today. So we are going to put our little half hexagon right in here, okay? So let's move on to row 5. Okay, so for row 5, what we're going to be doing is now hooking it onto our blanket. So you can see if we flip it over, it fits right in there like a little puzzle. So what we need to do though, as you can see, it's sort of upside down. So what we want to do is chain 1 now and turn our work, and now it's ready to go, okay? So if we kind of fit this in place, we can see that the first join we're going to make is, if we look at this opening here, is this first corner space of this first hexagon we come to. We're going to be working around this way, okay? So what we want to do is go into that corner space of that hexagon, go in from the top, reach back, scoop up that yarn, now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. Now I said this last week when we did our full-size hexagons. I like to come in from the top to do my joins. Some people like to come in from the bottom. If you have a preferred way to do it, definitely do the way you like best. I like to come in from the top. Okay, so then what we want to do is into this first space here, we're going to work 3 double crochets. So we did our first slip stitch join. Now we're going to work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And now there's a lot that just happened there. So if you want to like kind of straighten things out before you proceed, feel free to do that as well. Now we're going to make our next join. So do you see how I kind of have everything laid flat? It really does help. If you can lay it flat on a table or kind of on your lap or something, it really helps when you're making your joins, because it really helps you to see where everything is going to be lined up, okay? So our next join is going to be this next space of this hexagon. So going from the top, reach back, scoop up that yarn, and do your slip stitch join. And you can give it a little tug if you need to tighten it up a little bit. Now go into your green hexagon here, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Now if you may notice, just like we did with our full-size hexagons, instead of doing that chain 1 in between these groupings, we're doing our joins, okay? Now go into the next space of our hexagon over here and do your slip stitch join. Give it a little tug if you need to, and then work 3 double crochet into your, I'm just going to say the green hexagon. Yours may be a different color, but for demonstration purposes, I'll refer to them as color if that's more helpful. Okay, now let's get a little more yarn here. Now we're going to go back over to this pink hexagon, go to the next space, reach in from the top, reach back and scoop up that yarn. Okay, and then we're going to go, now we're at a corner here. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in because this corner is joining into 2. Okay, so we're going to go into our corner space here of our green hexagon, and we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Now you may recall when we joined our hexagons last week, when we joined 1 into 1, it was just a very simple corner space join, like you see here. When we joined 1 into 2, it's a little different, and we'll do this here again too. So instead of going into the corner spaces of this pink one or the corner space of this aqua one, we're going to go into the space in between them. And the reason we do that is so it won't be off center. If we were to go in either one of these, it would just go to the left or the right, but we want it to be centered, okay? So we're going to do our join in that center space, okay? So going from the top, reach back, scoop up that green yarn. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And now we can finish the corner here. So work 3 double crochets into that corner space to finish up this corner, okay? So 1, 2, and 3. And now I like to just kind of straighten things out, give everything a nice tug. We can zoom out a little bit. And if you need to turn your blanket as you work, feel free to do that. Okay, we're ready to do a join. Now we're in the aqua hexagon, okay? So go into the next space that you see here. Going from the top, reach back, scoop up that yarn, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. Now go back into your green hexagon and work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Go into the other space of this aqua hexagon, reach back, scoop up that yarn, work that slip stitch join. Go back to your green hexagon, work your 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. All right, we're going to go back into the aqua, go into that space, reach back, scoop up that yarn, do your slip stitch join. Now we're at a corner again. So you're going to go into that corner space, work your first 3 double crochets of the corner. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to join. We're now heading towards this yellow hexagon, leaving the aqua one. We're going to go into that center space, remember, because we have 2. We're joining 1 into 2, so we're going to go in that center space. Reach back, scoop up that yarn, do your join. Okay, now let's finish the corner here. Turning as needed. Work 3 double crochets to finish that corner. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're ready for a join. We're in the yellow now. Going from the top, reach back, scoop up that yarn, and do your join. Go back down to your green half hexagon. Work 3 double crochet in that next space of your hexagon. 1, 2, and 3. Go back to your yellow hexagon and do your join. Going from the top, reach back, scoop up that yarn, and do your join. Okay, we're in the home stretch here. Go back down to your green hexagon, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Go back to your other hexagon, reach back, scoop up that yarn, do your join. Now we're going to do 3 double crochet in our turning chain space. So go back to your green hexagon, work 3 double crochet in that turning chain space. 1, 2, and 3. And then to finish, what we're going to do is we're going to go to that corner space and we're going to do a slip stitch join in that corner space. Okay, so going from the top, reach back, scoop up the yarn, work your slip stitch join. Okay, And now you can see we have, let me just zoom out, a lovely half granny hexagon to kind of close up that space there. Okay, so then what we want to do is just cut our yarn and fasten off. Okay, so as you're working on your blanket, and I understand that, you know, you may still be working on, I am definitely, and I like to, just as a side note, I like to just kind of straighten everything out when I'm done. But we're gonna keep working on our blankets, and as you can see, I'm still working on mine. I still have some more hexagons to add on here. I'm still working across and down, but you can see now, let me just fold this in so it's easier to see. But you can see now, here's the top of our blanket, and as we move down, 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 we have like a flat edge down the side now, okay? So keep working on your hexagons, keep adding more hexagons, and every time you get one of these half shapes that need to be filled, now you'll know how to do the half granny hexagon to fill in that space. So that concludes week 3. So keep adding those half hexagons down the sides of your blanket. And then next week, we're going to do some finish work and kind of wrap everything up, and also add some fun little tassels to the top and bottom of our blanket, just to give it some added interest. Totally optional, but I think they're a lot of fun. Now, looking more ahead, we're going to, in week 5, we're going to do a recap post. So for all my crochet alongs, I like to do a recap so that you can kind of go back to one post and have it all in one spot. So we're going to, I have more pictures to share of the finished piece, and we're going to have all the videos in one spot, all the blog post tutorials in one spot, and so you can have it all there. I know a lot of you like to go back and remake some of these as well. So I will see you next week for our tassels and finish work part of our blanket. And be sure and jump into the Ravelry group and the Facebook group if you haven't already, and use that hashtag FiberFluxCal to share your work on social media. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest FiberFlux video updates. Thanks again.